Welcome. Welcome to the 58th meeting of the Civil Rights Council.
Oh, wait.
Start over. Welcome to the 58th meeting of the Civil Rights Council. The meeting is called to order. Adley Sadler, Senior Counsel, will conduct the roll call.
Councilmember Chan,
Present.
Chair Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Glader,
Present.
Councilmember Hong,
Present.
Director Kish, Councilmember Olude,
Present.
Councilmember Walensky.
Present.
Thank you. I would like to thank the stakeholders for attending the Civil Rights Council meeting. The meeting is being webcast live via Zoom video conference. And the video of this meeting will also be available afterwards on the Civil Rights Council's website at https://calcivilrights.ca.gov/Civil Rights Council/ and the Civil Rights Department's YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We also have closed captioning available for participants, which you can find at the bottom of the Zoom bar feature. If you are having difficulty accessing the closed caption, you can send an email to the administrator to resolve this issue at council@calcivilrights.ca.gov. Members of the public joining remotely may have noticed that you are currently muted and your video is disabled at this time. Please note that the Q&A and chat functions are also disabled. However, please be advised there will be opportunities for public comment and participation throughout today's meeting. At the end of each agenda item, we will ask if there is any public comment. In the interest of time, we will limit comments to 3 minutes each. We also ask that comments address a specific agenda item. If your comment does not address a specific agenda item, we request you share your comment at the end of the meeting. We have a number of ways for you to provide input and comments. First, you can email the council at council@calcivilrights.ca.gov. We will be checking this email account throughout the meeting, and your comments will be read aloud and summarized and considered by the council members. Second, if you would like to speak directly rather than through email, please click raised hands in the Zoom or press *9 if you have called in. If you would like to rename yourself in the Zoom list of participants, you can find yourself on the list and click rename and list options next to your name. We would also like to acknowledge Civil Rights Department staff members joining us today. Adam Romero, Deputy Director of Executive Programs, Rachel Langston, Assistant Chief Counsel, and Mariel Block, Suj Lee, and Adley Sadler, Senior Counsels. As well, I would like to thank everyone who's attending. We look forward to your participation throughout today's meeting. Item number 3, review of the agenda items. I'd like to review the agenda for today. The agenda and the meeting materials can be accessed at the council's website at calcivilrights.ca.gov/Civil Rights Council/. The agenda includes approval of the minutes, council member reports, Civil Rights Department report, consideration of first modified text of proposed modifications to employment regulations regarding automated decision systems, consideration of proposed modifications to contractor non-discrimination and compliance regulations, subcommittee updates, and lastly, public comment on any item not on the agenda. The approval of minutes, item number 4. Attachment A, minutes from July 18th, 2024 meeting of the Civil Rights Council. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our July 18th, 2024 meeting. of the Civil Rights Council, which can be found as attachment A. Do we have any council members' comments or edits regarding the minutes from our last meeting? Hearing no comments at this time, I'll next ask if we have any public comments regarding the minutes. I'd like to remind everyone that there is opportunity to provide public comment at the end of the meeting. Please comment at the end of the meeting if your comments do not relate to a specific agenda item. Do we have any public comments in person or in Zoom?
Oh, I meant for later, not right now.
There will be a chance later.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Okay. Can we move, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second,
Staff, can you take roll?
Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Alude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
aye.
The minutes are approved. We will now move to item number 5, council members' reports. Do we have any reports from the council members at this time? Hearing none. Do we have any public comments in person or in Zoom? Or do we have any public comments submitted via email? None at this time? Okay. Then we'll move on then to section number 6 of the agenda item. The next order of business is the Civil Rights Department report. I will turn this part of the agenda over to Mr. Adam Romero for the report.
Good morning, council members and members of the public. I'm pleased to provide the department's report today. What I wanted to highlight is some of the recent work that the department has been doing on the housing front. First, the department filed a lawsuit against an apartment complex related to allegations that the landlord was refusing to allow a longtime tenant to use a Section 8 housing choice voucher. As you all know, the Fair Employment and Housing Act and the council's regulations prohibit landlords from refusing to accept housing assistance to help pay the rent. So I will keep the council updated as that case proceeds. In addition, also in the housing space, our department recently settled a complaint against a San Diego homeless shelter that had an alleged ban on emotional support animals. Again, the Fair Employment and Housing Act and the council's regulations require all housing providers, including homeless shelters, to provide reasonable accommodations to individuals with disabilities, and this can include emotional support animals. On the employment side, what I wanted to highlight this month is that we recently, in recognition of International Equal Pay Day, released data from the 2023 Pay Data Reporting Program. As I think everyone knows, our department collects demographic and workforce and pay data from larger California employers every year. And so last month on Equal Pay Day, we released the 2023 data. And while our California has some of the strongest equal pay laws in the country, the pay data shows that much more work needs to be done to close the gap facing women and people of color and others. And so just in terms of a few high-level findings in the data, what we found were that 53% of people in this data set earned, 53% of people in this data set who earned $32,239 or less per year were women. So overrepresentation of women in the lowest paid workers. In addition, fewer than 1 in 20 Latinos and 1 in 10 Black and Native American workers were in the top paying jobs. And then finally, more than 70% of non-binary workers earned less than or $32,239 or less. So a very high percentage of non-binary workers among the lowest paid workers. Those are just a few of the top lines. I encourage you and members of the public to explore these data, which are rich. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to offer again is our department puts out a monthly newsletter that has a variety of information about our investigations and settlements and litigation and other initiatives of the department, including upcoming training opportunities offered by the department. And you can sign up for that newsletter from our department's homepage under subscriptions. And with that, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Mr. Romero, appreciate that report. Do we have any council members' comments regarding the councilman's report? Mr. Romero, I just had a couple of questions for the litigation regarding the housing lawsuit. Is that state or federal court?
Is state court.
State court. And is it numerous plaintiffs or is it like a single plaintiff?
There's well, the department is the plaintiff in the case, but it's on behalf of a single renter.
Single renter. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any public comments in person or in Zoom?
Oh, I was going to ask a
I'm
question
sorry.
about the pay data, Adam. Is there any analysis by age?
No, that's not a data point that's collected in this program.
Any other comments by council members at this time or questions?
This is how, Adam, is there something where it would be helpful for the outreach subcommittee to help expound on the data or to help magnify that? Is that something that would be helpful or not helpful in terms of like outreach priorities in terms of what Danny and I are doing?
I mean, it's always helpful to collaborate with you. Nothing in particular comes to mind at the moment, but we could explore some opportunities where you know, if there's areas that you'd like to tag in on.
Just raising it, but thank you. Was there anything that I guess the employers wouldn't necessarily report people with disabilities in terms of self-reporting, is that correct?
That's right. Disability status is not a required element in the statute. What's required is, and this relates to Councilmember Chan's question too, what's required among demographics are race, ethnicity, and sex.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members at this time? Staff, do we have any public comments in person or in Zoom regarding the report? No public comments. Okay. Thank you all for your comments at this time. We will go ahead and move on to item number 7 on the agenda. We will next hear from the Algorithms and Bias Subcommittee, Council Members Hong and Glader, regarding the first modified text of proposed modifications to employment regulations regarding automated decision systems. Council Members Hong and Glader.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Councilmember Glader and I are introducing the first modified text of the proposed modifications to the employment regulations regarding automated decision systems, with the request that the council approve the modifications included in attachment B and move this version of the modifications into the first 15-day public comment period. First, Councilmember Glader and I would like to thank all the many members of the public and the council that spoke at the public hearing in July and provided many written comments as well, and period. We want to recognize and thank particularly the department staff, Rachel Langston and Adley Sadler, who have been working on the subcommittee for many years and very diligently, especially in this past few months. We'd like to provide an explanation of where we are in the rulemaking process. The initial text of the proposed modifications were first published on May 17th, 2024, along with a notice commencing a 45-day public comment period. A public hearing was held on July 18th, 2024, and we received a number of comments in writing and at the public hearing. If the council approves the modified text today, our next step under the Administrative Procedure Act is to notice a public comment period of at least 15 days regarding the proposed modifications in this first modified text. When the rulemaking process is complete, a summary and response to all the comments will be provided in the final statement of reasons. We direct the council and the public to the text of the proposed modifications, attachment B in today's agenda. In the interest of time, we will not review all the proposed changes this morning, but we will explain our overall approach and highlight some of the proposed modifications. The modifications were in response to the extensive public comment, and we also made modifications to enhance the clarity of the proposed regulations. I now turn it over to Councilmember Glader to speak more to these modifications.
Thank you, Councilmember Hong, and thank you, Chair Garcia. And I also want to recognize the staff for your hard work on the drafting process. My contribution is to talk about the proposed modifications. The subcommittee proposed modifying several definitions in Article 1, including the definitions for adverse impact, agent, employment agency, proxy, automated decision system, artificial intelligence, and automated decision system data. The revisions also include proposed modifications to section 11013 regarding record-keeping requirements, section 11020 regarding aiding and abetting, section 11070 regarding medical or psychological examinations, and section 11072 regarding qualification standards, tests, and other selection criteria. The revisions also include revised language in the following sections: 11009, 11028, 11032, 11033, 11038, 11039, 11063, regarding the prohibition against an employer's or other covered entity's use of an automated decision system or selection criteria to discriminate against an employee or applicant based on a protected characteristic. We welcome comments from members of the public today, but because we are not yet in a formal comment period, we ask that anyone providing comment, please today resubmit your comment once the first 15-day public comment period has been noticed in order for the comment to be included in the formal rulemaking file. Please also limit comments to any new proposed modifications set forth in this modified text. We ask for the council's vote to approve the publication of this first modified text for consideration in the first 15-day comment period for these proposed regulations.
Staff, do we have any public comment at this time? Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any council members have any comments regarding the first modified text regarding automated decision systems at this time? Seeing no questions, staff, do we have any public comment at this time?
Yes, we have one present and one. So, oh, have several so far on the Zoom.
Okay. Why don't we, just a reminder for everyone to please adhere to the 3-minute time frame. I guess why don't we start with the person who's present today? Can you please state your name?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nidhi Sinha, and I'm presenting public commentary on behalf of the Center for AI and Digital Policy, also known
Could
as
you spell your name as well?
NIDHI SINHA. CADIP is an international policy advocacy org based in DC and in Brussels, and we also newly launched a California affiliate. We previously submitted commentary at the last hearing, and we also emailed a statement yesterday. Our recommendations are as follows: to establish clear disclosure requirements where automated decision systems are being used for employment decisions, establish simple contestability mechanisms and human oversight requirements, require bias audits or impact assessments as a precondition to deployment, and align the definition of automated decision system with similar regulations at both the state and federal level. Job applicants and employees deserve to be informed about what type of system they're interacting with in order to have increased transparency. This also falls in line with the CPPA's draft regulations, which establish protections for workers via pre-use notices, ability to opt out, and ability to access more information about the usage of ADMs. With this increased transparency should also come contestability so that applicants and employees can meaningfully assess and contest decisions made by ADMs. Human oversight is critical to promoting accountability in case of adverse impact and provides employers opportunity to rectify biases that may arise from AI systems. The potential for AI to amplify unfair biases has been well documented, and as such, it's critical for employers to conduct pre-deployment bias testing for impact assessments for ADMs. Such assessments promote trust and human centricity by addressing unlawful discrimination from the start. And our final recommendation is to align the definition of automated decision system with similar regulations at the state and federal level to facilitate greater clarity and compliance. We also recommend revising the definition of artificial intelligence to align with federal law and the guidance of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Very much appreciated. Just one caveat before we continue. I want to remind everybody that we are not currently in an open comment period. Accordingly, any comments that have been submitted in writing today, sent to the council, must be resubmitted once the next comment period is officially noticed in order to be considered by the council as part of the formal rulemaking process. Yes, please.
Just to clarify, any letters submitted today, assuming that the council votes to move the language forward, letters submitted today, starting today, will be part of the formal rulemaking package. But as I'll mention at the end, many of the letters that we've received, many letters, public comments in the last few days, and in order for those to be included in the formal rulemaking package, they need to be resubmitted with once the notice is out there, which as I said, should be later today. While I'm talking, I'll also mention this notice, if it is noticed today and the council approves, the council has discretion to provide more than 15 days. And for this comment period, we are going to provide 30 days. So the deadline will not be until November. Well, don't quote me on that. I need to look at all the days, but it should be approximately November 18th. But do watch for the notice to ensure that you have the correct dates. I'll also mention, as far as public comment, we have received letters of comment from the following organizations: SELA and Tech Equity, the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, BSA, the Software Alliance, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Society for Human Resources Management, Center for AI and Digital Policy, Chamber of Progress, Computer and Communications Industry Association. and a letter on behalf of multiple associations. So again, I would ask that please resubmit your letters after the formal comment period has been noticed, which should be shortly. If the council votes to approve. Thank you, Chair Garcia.
Of course, thank you for that clarification. Do we have any comments, public comments on Zoom?
Yes. We're gonna start with Claudia Center. I am going to unmute you now.
Thank you, everyone. This is Claudia Center speaking on behalf of Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund. We were very disappointed to see the new definition of adverse impact, and we feel that we haven't articulated sufficiently to you all how unintentional discrimination and screen out devices work for the disability community. And so in the context of an automated decision-making system or another selection device, people with disabilities can be screened out directly because the system identifies and screens out based on a disability trait. So for example, someone with cerebral palsy who is screened out by an algorithm that looks at video interviews, and if that person shows that the screening device discriminates based on, facial expressions or motor control, that's sufficient to show discrimination. There's no ability or sense to requiring that person to show a statistical analysis of people with cerebral palsy and without cerebral palsy. That data doesn't exist, and it would be just unfair and unrelated to how discrimination works for our community. So I've included in our letter, and we will resubmit it, there's voluminous authority about how statistical evidence is not required for screen out claims for people with disabilities because of how the screen out works for disabled people. And so the current definition of adverse impact in the draft with substantial disparity and works to the disadvantage of a group of individuals, that does not work for us. And so it would exclude a category of discrimination for disabled people in virtually all cases. So I'm hoping that'll get fixed in the future. Thank you.
For those comments, do we have any additional comments from the public?
Ashley Hoffman.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Ashley Hoffman on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce. We are still reviewing the modifications, and we do plan to provide a more detailed written comment when the comment period is open. I do want to start by thanking the council for taking into consideration some of the feedback that we did submit during the first round of public comment. For example, amending some of the legal standards to, in our opinion, better align it with the current law. As well as some of the language that we had suggested that was taken specific to the use of ADS and conviction history reports. So really appreciated some of the changes that were made. I do want to flag just a couple of outstanding concerns that we have. I think one of our biggest concerns is just that we are, looking at this at a time when these issues are actively being discussed and debated, both in the legislature as well as by the administration. For example, the legislature actually did pass a definition of AI that is different from the one proposed here. We do expect as well to be continued discussion next session about how ADS should be defined, as well as some of the discussion about division of liability and responsibilities between those who develop and sell this technology and then those that utilize it and how. There was a bill, moving on this during last session, and expect a lot more discussions to continue into next year as well. Specifically, as it relates to this regulation, some of our members have concerns about the revisions still to the definitions of agent and employment agency. We wholeheartedly agree, of course, that discrimination is discrimination, regardless whether if it's done on pen and paper using technology, but have some concerns that these regulations go beyond that and that some of these discussions are perhaps best left at the legislative level. Again, we also really want to thank the council for extending the comment period. It sounds like it's going to be 30 days instead of 15, which is, we had planned to ask for more time. So really appreciate the council offering some more time, especially in light of some of the recent legislation that was just passed on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next, we have Ken Wang.
Good morning, Chair, Council members, and department staff. My name is Ken Wang, and I'm commenting on behalf of California Employment Lawyers Association and Tech Equity Collaborative. We sent our comments in yesterday, but we will resubmit a written version of our comment once the period opens. But I'll just highlight several top-line concerns today. And I just want to first off thank the council for continuing to engage in this. I think is really important. This is a part of the debate about kind of what regulations we need in this fast evolving kind of area affecting lots and lots and ever more kind of employees and applicants. So first, turning to the definition of adverse impact, we'd just like to align ourselves with a comment made by Claudia Centers on behalf of DREDF. We're also concerned with the term substantial disparity in this definition. We understand that this term may have been pulled from the uniform guidelines, but we would ask the council adopt the term disproportionate adverse effect instead, since that is the term used by the California Supreme Court in Guz versus Bechtel, and also existing jury instructions, and also FEHA regulations. To the definition of agent, we're concerned that the definition deviates from the holding in Reins because we believe the term function traditionally exercised by an employer, which limits the scope of the definition of agent, was drawn from our Supreme Court's survey of Title VII, Federal Circuit interpretation of Title VII. But in the holding of Reins, the California Supreme Court explicitly declined to adopt this definition, and instead the court only held that, quote, a business entity agent can bear direct FEHA liability only when it carries out FEHA regulated activities on behalf of an employer, end quote. So I would ask that the council consider aligning kind of the definition of agent to that holding. Third, the definition of proxy. There's several issues. We appreciate the removal of the term technically neutral in this version of the revisions, but we're concerned that the focus on a singular characteristic that may serve as a proxy for a protected basis does not reflect how ADS works. ADS draws from a large bank of data, like big data, that pulls inferences from multiple data points. So the proxy may be a combination of characteristics. So we ask that the definitions align with that kind of reality. And then finally, there's lots of mention of anti-bias testing and the relevance of this testing to a claim or a defense. We would just ask that the council recognizes that a lack of evidence of anti-bias testing should also be relevant when thinking about claim and affirmative defense. We have more detailed kind of concerns in our written comments, but I'll just leave it at that. But once again, we'd like to thank the council for your work on this issue.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Wang, next speaker, please.
Next, we have Dylan Hoffman.
Hi, thank you to the council. My name is Dylan Hoffman on behalf of TechNet. We represent about 90 companies in the technology and innovation industry, and a large portion of our membership are very interested in these regulations, whether they're developers of automated decision-making technology, deployers of it, or just more generally as employers themselves. And we wholeheartedly agree with the intent of preventing discrimination, again, whether it's committed by human beings or by technology, and our companies are working very diligently to both design their systems and their governance programs to protect against that. We appreciate many of the changes that have been made in this latest draft. However, just want to address a couple of outstanding concerns, which we'll be writing more detailed comments and submitting as part of the formal comment period. First, we believe the definition of ADS is still overbroad as it applies to any technology that simply facilitates human decision-making. Also point out as an example, the exception in 11008.1A2 is undercut by still applying to all of those use cases if they help facilitate that human decision, which I think arguably many of them still do. So I don't know that that exception really carves out any of those use cases. And we've provided suggested changes, and we'll do so again during the formal comment period that we believe would more accurately and appropriately scope these rules to the technology. Second, we still believe the definition of agent is overly broad as well, and potentially would include a company who creates and sells software to an employer, but doesn't have a continuing relationship with that employer. We also believe the record keeping requirement is also impacted by the definition of agent as well, as the requirements for software providers was struck, but unless they are considered agents, which, as mentioned, the definition would still seem to include a company that is simply creating and selling that type of technology. Finally, also want to echo my appreciation to the council for considering a longer comment period than just the 15 days. It really means makes a lot of difference for our companies to be able to provide more thorough and thoughtful feedback. So want to extend my gratitude for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next, we have Austin Hayworth.
Good morning, Chair and Council. My name is Austin Hayworth. I represent the Internet Works trade group. It is 20 small and medium-sized platforms with a real emphasis on right-sizing policies that relates to the technology industry. Would like to echo many of the comments made by the Chamber and by TechNet. We appreciate the extension of time to really get into the nuance of what's a very complicated issue that has played out in the legislature and will continue to. And again, a point of emphasis on tightening the definitions. The definitions of automated decision system and agent, we're concerned is very broad and will have unintended impacts on small or medium-sized platforms that on many other frontiers, find competitive differentiation just in the burden of compliance with measures like this. But again, we want to emphasize also we share the goals that the council is working towards. So again, we'll follow up with more extensive comments and appreciate the consideration. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
No further speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just double checking. No further speakers via email or commenters via email.
Okay, thank you for those participating in the public comments. We've had a request for a motion to approve the first modified text of the proposed modifications to employment regulations regarding automated decision systems and approve them for a comment period of at least 15 days. If the council votes to approve this text, the comment period will be noticed, and the notice will include the opening and closing dates for public comments, as well as other information regarding the process for commenting on these regulations. Can we get a motion to approve the first modified text and approve them for the next comment period?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong. Aye. Councilmember Olude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
The first modified text is approved to be noticed for a comment period of at least 15 days. Thank you. Well, let's move on to the next agenda item, item number 8. Consideration of proposed modifications to contractor non-discrimination and compliance regulations. We will hear from Admiral Romero regarding these modifications.
Good morning again, council members, and apologies that I don't have my camera on. My computer it just forced a restart, so I've joined by my phone. At attachment C to the agenda, you have a proposal from the department to update the council regulations regarding non-discrimination clauses that are included in state contracts. Let me back up a moment to just give some context here and say, as you know, all employers have obligations under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. But in addition, state contractors, employers that contract with the state of California, have additional obligations under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. And those are set forth in Government Code Section 12990, as well as in Subchapter 5 of the Council's regulations. Those regulations establish what's known as the Office of Compliance Programs at the Civil Rights Department and set forth the various requirements of state contractors under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. Earlier this year, the Newsom administration published a report and recommendation about how to, with recommendations regarding how to harness the unprecedented federal monies coming to California for infrastructure projects to create high quality jobs in California. And what that report and recommendations included was recommendations to update the state's general terms and conditions on non-discrimination to be clearer, to reflect current law, and to provide greater guidance to state contractors about their obligations. And so now, stemming from that report and recommendations, the department is coming to you with a proposal to update the relevant regulations of the council. The proposed modifications, again, that are in Attachment C, reflect existing law. And what we'd ask for you to do today is two things. One, to create a subcommittee of council members to work with the department on this rulemaking, and at the same time, to vote this, to authorize the department to notice this rulemaking to move it forward in the process. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Do we have any council member comments regarding the proposed modifications to contractor non-discrimination and compliance regulations? Hearing none.
Adam, I'm sorry, this is Helen. I'm sorry. In terms of, are there specific programs that are already authorized by the state? Like, is this something that the CRD is going to have to put on, or are these things that are already approved, like sexual harassment trainings that are every 2 years? Can you speak a little bit more to the trainings themselves or the programs?
Sure. Sure. These are existing obligations under the Fair Employment and Housing Act. So employers of 5 or more employees are required to train their employees on sexual harassment prevention every 2 years. And so those are existing requirements under existing law that would just be reiterated in the general condition so that state contractors are better aware of this existing obligation.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification and update. Any further comments by council members?
Just a question, regarding his proposal to form a new subcommittee, is that a conversation we're having now or later in the agenda?
I think it would be now. What I recommend is probably one motion to create the subcommittee and then a second motion to authorize the department to notice the rulemaking. I would note just in terms of creation of the subcommittee, I would imagine a fairly low level of work for the subcommittee members. The department would be able to, I think, do the lion's share of drafting for this.
Okay. Thank you. At this point, do we have any public comment regarding this agenda item?
There are no public comments on the Zoom or present.
Well, let's take the first motion then. Do I have a motion I have a motion to form or create a subcommittee regarding modified tax or proposed modifications to employment regulations. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Contractor non-discrimination and compliance regulations. Is anybody want to
I move to create.
move to approve that motion? Do I have a
So
second?
moved.
Second. Okay, staff, can you take a vote?
Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Alude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Okay. We've had a request for a motion to approve the proposed modifications to contractor non-discrimination and compliance regulations for a 45-day comment period. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
please take roll call.
Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Alude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. We will now move on to item number 9 of the agenda.
Don't we need to do the subcommittee?
You need to staff.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask, do we need to staff the subcommittee? Sorry.
Are we gonna handle that now, or should we
You can do it now.
do it now? Okay. Any discussion on the staffing of this subcommittee? Any volunteers?
I can
I'll
do it.
just go ahead and
I can
volunteer
do it.
that one. Well, I think Helen might have beat me to it. Did you say something, Helen?
Yeah, no. Since it's mostly staff driven and it's cleanup, I'm happy to do that.
And is it we're gonna staff it with two council members?
Two council members, and I'll volunteer to work with Helen on that. So it'll be Hong and Garcia. Okay. We can move on to item number 9 of the agenda item. The next order of business is subcommittee updates. Do we have any subcommittee updates at this point?
Yes. This is,
Okay, sorry, we're gonna jump in. I think we do need a vote on the subcommittee members.
Oh,
I apologize.
Certainly.
we do need a vote for that.
Just in the abundance of caution.
Do we have a motion to approve the appointment of the subcommittee members?
so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is approved. I guess, Helen, it's me and you.
Let's do a vote.
Oh, do we have a vote?
Okay, I will do roll call. Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Alude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Motion's approved. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, we can now move on to item number 9 of the agenda. The next order of business is subcommittee updates. Do we have any updates by the subcommittee members at this time?
This is Councilmember Glater. You would think I could handle my own name. I have a brief update from the subcommittee on Governing Code 11135 regulations. As we have discussed before, our subcommittee has been engaged in 2 tasks with respect to these regulations, implementing Government Code Section 11135, which prohibits discrimination in programs funded by the state government. One of those projects involves review of the regulations with an eye to identifying areas that may be amenable to potential clarification in the future. The other involves development of a plain language explainer, a primer that could be made available to the public to explain whom the anti-discrimination regulations protect, what the regulations prohibit and what to do if you think you've been a victim of prohibited discrimination. We begun meeting with a team of students at the law school at the University of California, Berkeley, who volunteered to work on drafting this document, and we expect to have a completed version by the end of the semester so the students can study for their final exams.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Any other comments by subcommittee members this time? Do we have any public comments in person or in Zoom regarding this agenda item?
No.
Actually, I'm sorry. I know that we had our first joint meeting with the Commission Against Hate, and it was the first time the Outreach Committee had done a joint hearing. We're learning the process, but and it is an interesting combined effort, as the Commission actually has to have, I think, 4 hearings by statute. And so one of the ways that we wanted to work with them was to talk about where that there is intersectionality. The staff did a really great job, I think, finding experts in the field. I think it is a little bit difficult to see what where there might be intersectionality as it relates to this body. But I did want to kind of get input from the other council members about their thoughts about it, and kind of where, if it's helpful, what we want to do in the future. Is there something that we want to do as a follow-up? We haven't met with the Commission after the fact. They did note that that was the most amount of public comments that they've ever had in a public hearing. And so I want to just kind of debrief in terms of what was helpful, what do we want to do differently? Is it something we want to move forward with? What are next steps? What are opportunities in this space if we can?
Those are actually excellent points. I was thinking about the same thing. What the next step was going to be for that hearing. I found it really informative, really interesting substantively, and I had the same questions. So I'll open it up to the council members for any comments, thoughts, insights, and to staff as well.
So this is Councilmember Glader. I have the same interest as Councilmember Hong. And I guess my question would be for the staff, what the possibilities are for collaboration going forward. I'm not exactly sure how that would work logistically and what kind of product might result, whether it's additional public facing events, or we've talked in the past about white papers, reports, and other documents. But I would love to hear your thoughts on what next steps might be appropriate.
One thing I can share is that the Commission on the State of Hate has a subcommittee on community forums, and that is an ongoing subcommittee. So that is a possibility to continue to work with that. I think, yeah, anything you can think of could be explored. The Commission on the State of Hate does release an annual report, and part of their responsibilities are to make recommendations throughout the state about how to address hate. So anything that relates to hate, recommendations, research, or community forums, I think is fruitful.
This is Councilmember Chan. One observation I had was that during the public comment period, there were so many comments where I thought, gosh, people really just need like a basic 101 around their rights pertaining to disability. And I was wondering, and so I saw afterward, I saw that there were all these great resources in the back of the room. And I'm wondering what we can do to drive more people to those existing resources. I don't know how people hear about them, but I don't want to completely recreate the wheel, but if we already have great stuff out there, it seems to me then the question is getting the word out about those materials.
That's a good point. Any other thoughts or comments, insights by the members?
Just in response to Councilmember Chan's comment, our department's outreach and education team regularly conducts training and outreach on disability and many other issues. That includes direct outreach in communities, including attending job fairs and community events. But also we've, since July, offered a monthly Civil Rights 101 webinar series that's available for free and focused on disability issues. So I'd ask staff in the room if you could maybe put a link to our department's homepage in the chat function, if that's available. Again, apologies, I'm on my phone. So that people can access the link to those webinars. But Councilmember Chan and any other council members, whatever you can do to amplify those existing efforts, we'd much appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Chair Garcia. I did have one procedural question. Will there be minutes from that meeting, or who's going to be responsible for those minutes, if there are going to be minutes? It's a joint effort, so I'm kind of curious about the next steps on that.
Yes, there are draft minutes, but they are not ready for approval today. The process is that both the Commission on the State of Hate and this body in a future meeting will have the opportunity to approve them. And we are going to have those occur in the separate meetings for each body.
Okay, so each body will approve their own version of the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Chair Garcia, could I, just another logistical question. This is Councilmember Later again. What's the mechanism for us to communicate with the Commission on the State of Hate? For example, if we want to think collectively about how to build on what we learned at the public forum.
So basically, we have the subcommittee, of course, that put together worked with the commission to put together the forum, the two-person subcommittee. I think, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think in order to have a meeting with more or all members of the council to talk with the commission, I believe that would have to be a public meeting. So as far as communication, I mean, it's not perfect, but I would say, communication through a subcommittee. If anyone has other ideas, I am happy to hear them.
Yeah, I'll just add the subcommittee that is the joint subcommittee between the Commission on the State of Hate and the Civil Rights Council has not been dissolved. And so that is still open as a place to discuss next steps to do this. And I think it could be added to either body's potentially an agenda to join the meeting and discuss it there.
Maybe sorry, this is Councilmember Chan. Maybe the first step, since the joint subcommittee hasn't met yet, even to debrief as a joint subcommittee, maybe the first step would be to calendar something for the four of us plus staff to meet. Mm-hmm. And then anything that you all want us to take to that meeting, we are happy to do so. As a first step.
Communicating through staff, that would be.
Well, through the subcommittee can do.
Well, it's a little tricky, again. And Adam, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but technically it would probably I don't know if it would probably have to be something raised during a public meeting at this meeting. And to make the subcommittee aware of questions that you have. But if Adam or anyone has other perspectives on that, please feel free to jump in.
So one of the things I think this is the purpose of the conversation right now. If there are ideas or highlights that you found helpful, that we might be able to do together or as next steps, or that you found illuminating that may not have been raised, that's what we would want to then bring up in the subcommittee meeting as possible next steps. And so, for example, one of the reasons that it was such a, I thought, really helpful. And I have to tell you that the Commission on Hate isn't very familiar with CRD in terms of our regulatory narrowing. And they're really more of a research and amplification. But the irony was that right in their hate crime report, they didn't report any, there was no high statistics on people with disabilities, right? So I think that was kind of like the first nudge, is to say, where there's intersectionality, can we highlight that based on what was raised in this hearing? And so I think my first question was, for the council members, were there specific things that you learned that we need to highlight? And it could be as easy as, right, we could do a joint like little press release of like, these are key facts, or these things that you know employers and or people can do in order to address this often underreported and I think under discussed issue of hate and civil rights violations with people with disabilities. So like, for example, in terms of representation, we know 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 Americans have a disability, but the representation of like even foundation or public funding doesn't represent that kind of investment. And so one of these things is just kind of bringing it up to a 4, particularly when we talk about civil rights. I mean, it is the most underrepresented in terms of our legal profession as well. And so these are things that I think are just, I think in my mind, interesting. But so I would love to hear from you guys, like what were helpful, or what would that look like in terms of if we were able to amplify that even with our own body and or the commission.
Well, this is Councilmember Walensky. Thank you so much for raising that to this group, because it seems like this is the forum where we can collectively share input that would then get appropriately conveyed by the subcommittee. One thought that I had was I really appreciated the presenters and their presentations, and I would love to access that information again. And I'm wondering if it would be possible and not create too much work, but to have that in a publicly accessible way, either putting a transcript online or putting PowerPoints or other materials online, but just to kind of have that summary, because I was left with the impression that, oh, everyone should watch this presentation, not just the people who are here in the room, but it was a long proceeding. And so if there's a way to kind of put key information from the presentations, or even just post a transcript, I think that would be really wonderful. And I think that would be great to have that information from the community forums publicly available.
It's a great idea. This is Councilmember Glader again. I'm talking too much, but I'm really curious also from CRD staff on what data might be available that could inform the subcommittee, in particular on this question of intersectional discrimination, that is people who have disability plus some other identity characteristic that could be the base that's protected. And that kind of data could potentially support, right, the press release or whatever other public facing going to release. The other thing I was going to say is it will help enormously when we're thinking about feedback from all of us to the subcommittee to see the draft minutes. I'm sure we were all taking notes, but I'm sure the minutes will be better, at least in mine.
I'd like to share that the YouTube video from the forum is online, so that is valuable.
Thank you.
Could I request that this topic of larger input to the subcommittee also be on the agenda for the next council meeting, so that we'll have the minutes as well for that?
You need a second.
I was gonna ask, is there a motion? Is there a motion to have this input from that meeting at the next as
Add to the agenda.
the agenda item of our next scheduled meeting? Is there a motion?
Councilmember Walensky.
Okay, so moved.
Moved. Second. Can you take roll?
Yes. Councilmember Chan,
Aye.
Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Councilmember Glader,
Aye.
Councilmember Hong,
Aye.
Councilmember Alude,
Aye.
Councilmember Walensky.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Any other comments from council members at this time?
Just want to thank the subcommittee for putting the, working with the CRD staff and the commission to put on the public forum. I think it is great, and one of the things that we all sort of look forward to being able to do on the council. So it was a good opportunity. Thank you.
One thing, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ally.
I just want to share, I am hearing an interest in information about the data the department has. And if there is interest in that, that's something that could also be shared in a future meeting.
We can, yeah, staff can look into that.
So yeah, do we need a motion for that, or can we just ask for at the next meeting? We can just have staff present on that intersectionality with disability and other characteristics if that department reporting.
Yeah, I think what we can do is staff will look into that, and if we're able to present anything by the next meeting, if we have collected data in that way, then you know, we can raise that at the next meeting, but if that's tentative right now, we'll look and see what we have, so it might be helpful.
I also think I heard an interest in the department's report, the Commission on the State of Hate's report. Is that something you're interested in hearing more about, like the data that is in there? Or no?
Their annual report, or
There is an annual report by the Commission on the State of Hate.
I think we've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Good. Okay, thank you.
May I ask about the department's data? Is that along the lines of what's in the annual report in terms of?
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I mean, right now, we do have online, and someone could put the link for our the department's annual report in the chat. We do have information online. I don't know that it's particularly reflective of particular intersectionalities, but some of that data, at least as far as number of complaints based on disability and other characteristics, is available on our website.
And the other thing that I will just end with, and I'll stop talking, is, you know, based on the public comment, there's just so much misunderstanding, I think, about rights, civil rights, criminal rights, and all this. And so I feel that, you know, partly one thing that I would be happy to volunteer to work on is just kind of like a real plain language resources of like what the difference is when it is like, and we've done this, like I did this when I was at the state bar, right? People just don't understand the difference between bad luck or actually being engaged in civil litigation in multiple different ways. And a lot of those comments, I think, reflected that. When do people know that it's a civil rights versus a criminal issue versus a hate crime was something that I think, or right, what's a protected class, or why that is being even being raised. I think it's very complicated for just a regular person to even understand that. So I think that's something that was really struck by me, and the information that that the CRD publishes, which is amazing, I think is also assumes that you kind of know that's the issue that you have, which I find is struggling for regular people, difficult.
Councilmember Hong, hi, this is Adam. To that point, one recommendation I'd make to either the Outreach and Education or I think it is the Outreach and Education Subcommittee, is to work with staff. We can share with you our department's existing fact sheets and guide publications related to disability information. And we'd appreciate a review of those documents to see if there are any enhancements or clarifications that could be made based on your expertise or the public comments at the joint hearing or any other source. That might be a specific project that could accomplish a lot of what's being discussed right now.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments at this time from staff or council members? Do we have any public comments in person or on Zoom?
No, no public comments at this time.
Okay.
Email.
No email? Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 10 of the agenda. We will now hear public comment on the items not on the agenda. Please note that the council may not discuss or act on any matter raised during the public comment section that is not included in this agenda, except regarding whether the matter commented upon shall be placed on the agenda of a future meeting. Do we have any public additional comments in person? No. Do we have any additional public comments on Zoom?
I'll just notice that, or note that after the agenda item on automated decision systems, we did receive more written comments from Workday. I won't belabor the point, but I'll just reiterate the request to please resubmit these once the notice has been published.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comments submitted via email? No? Okay. At this time, we'll move on to item number 11 of the agenda, adjournment.
Sorry, I just wanted to verify, did we complete all subcommittee updates? I did.
I bet we did, but.
Well, I was just wondering if there were any updates from the Leave and Associational Accommodation Committee.
I mean, I think that might be a question for staff, if there was something additional that was sort of ready to discuss, or.
I mean,
I understood our status to be the same, but if you guys have sort of
Oh.
additional information, it'd be helpful to discuss.
No, yeah, the committee is still in consideration of the bereavement, a draft bereavement leave regulations.
So no update on that then, at this point. Okay, can we move on to item 11 at this point then? Okay. This concludes our meeting. This meeting is adjourned at 11:13 a.m. As a reminder, as a public body, public comment is critical to the work of the Civil Rights Council, and we allow public input at all of our meetings. However, we stand united with other Californians in condemning hate and recognizing the harms that hate causes. The rich diversity among our population in California is one of our state's greatest assets, and we are committed to supporting and protecting all people in California. Incidents like this emphasize the importance of our work. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought I had to keep reading. I apologize.
That's
Okay, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.